Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with me, Christian Harris. And in this episode, we're going to do a live demo of a tool that I think you'll find really valuable, a free tool that we've developed called the Slip Prevention Scorecard. Basically, what this does is it scores your building's performance currently in terms of the ability to stop slip and fall accidents, injuries and claims. It gives you a percentage for various factors and an overall percentage, and therefore you get a benchmark, a baseline for how you're currently doing, where you're doing best and where you've got most room for improvement. And in this session, I do a walkthrough of the background to this, the benefits of using it, and then literally step by step go through it with a volunteer from the audience, and we score her building live on screen. And then we go through the results and think about what the results mean and some of the steps she could take to reduce risk going forward. So fire up a browser, go to scorecard.slipsafety.co.uk, get the scorecard ready and go along and fill in the questions with us as we run through it today on the podcast. Then you'll get your results, you'll get your PDF report, and a member of my team will be in touch to have a follow-up conversation with you to chat through your scores, see where you can improve, and see if there's anything we can do to help. Cheers.
Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with Christian Harris. We believe that proactive safety and risk management powers business performance. Each week we explore this theme, sharing guests, stories, insights, trends, hints and tips. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, and video versions are available on YouTube. But for now, let's join the conversation with Christian.
So thanks for joining today. And what we're going to do today is run through the Slip Prevention Scorecard. And the key questions that we're going to address today are these. Firstly, how do you know if you might have a slip problem? And we'll think in a minute about where on a spectrum you might sit in that regard. And secondly, if you do have a slip problem, what should you do about it? So those are the things we're going to cover today. Who's this for? So if you are somebody that has a responsibility for safety in your business, then this is for you. In other words, you are driven by and incentivized for keeping people safe and healthy and well in the workplace, then this is for you. If you are somebody that has a responsibility for risk in your business, then this is for you. So safety and risk, slightly different things. Clearly, risk typically is thinking about total costs of risks, insurance premiums, claims costs and things like that. So if you have responsibility for that, then this is for you. And if you have a operational responsibility, I guess, for keeping your buildings or building safe and working well and running correctly, in other words, you've got facilities oversight, then this is for you as well. And so if you are responsible for one or more of those three key areas within a business, you're going to fall somewhere on a spectrum. And that could range from, I'm concerned that I might have an issue with slips. So in other words, you have an awareness that there could be a risk of slips to your business, through to, I don't think I've got an issue, but I am open to double checking, to finding out whether there may be something that I'm missing, whether I've got any blind spots. If you are further down that spectrum and you don't believe you've got an issue and you're not interested in exploring whether you may have an issue that you're not aware of, then this probably isn't for you. If you're not open-minded to think about things differently, then you probably won't benefit too much from this session. Sorry to say. The majority of people are going to fit in somewhere on that spectrum, probably somewhere between the two. So typically we find that people are only really sort of super concerned after they've had a particularly bad incident or a series of incidents or perhaps a large claim or something like that. Most people would be towards the bottom end of this spectrum that we're talking about, where they probably think they're doing well, they're doing okay, but they are open-minded to having a second look and just seeing whether there's anything they can learn to further improve. And if you've heard me speak before, then you know that I'm always talking about moving from good to great. So most people are in the good category, but there is room to improve to being great. So wherever you are on that spectrum, if you're somewhere between those two, you're going to be thinking about points such as, do I have a slip problem? How big a problem do I have? What can I do about it? And is there a trusted and proven framework that I can use to address it? So if you tick any of those boxes, then this is definitely for you. And in terms of the last point, we've developed a model called Slipology, which is all around the science of slip prevention. And there's 4 steps within this methodology: assess, improve, maintain, and evidence. And today we're very much going to be looking at the first step of this. It's a sequential model, and that's all around assessment. So today I'm thinking about the Slip Prevention Scorecard. Is all around understanding where you are, figuring out to what extent you may or may not have a problem, and if you do have areas for improvement, where are those areas for improvement and what can you do about it? So it's the kind of strategic starting point, I guess. In terms of slips and falls, it is a big problem. I've spoken about this on any platform that I can, but here are some statistics. 300,000 A&E admissions, the biggest cause of people going to A&E in the UK each year, 1.5 million NHS bed days, over £1 billion of claims, 6-figure criminal fines are now commonplace. And actually last week, or this week, earlier this week in the press, we saw one of the big supermarkets in the UK being sued for £500,000 for a civil insurance claim as well, following a slip. And it's a big problem, but it's also not improving. So I've shared this slide recently as well, which shows riddles over the last decade from the HSE data, and basically slips, trips and falls as a category has flatlined at between 29 and 33% of riddles year after year after year for the last decade. And simply put, we're not improving at the moment. Yet it is very much possible to significantly improve. Here are some examples on the screen of buildings in different sectors with different types of environments that have all seen very dramatic reductions in accidents, injuries, and claims, from a swimming pool operator reducing claims across a 100-site portfolio from 1 per week to 1 per month, which is an 85% reduction, to busy train station seeing 60% fewer accidents. It's very much possible to reduce these accidents. So we have a big problem. We have the bulk of people not really improving, but yet it is possible to improve. So there's a bit of a gap there between the way we're doing things now and what we could be doing, and the performance levels we could be achieving, as proven by these case studies, and there are plenty of others available as well. So here's an insight for you. Why might that be the case? And I've been working in this field for over 12 years now, and I've helped several thousand sites to get a grip on their slip issues. And whenever I go into a building and they're doing well, they all have certain things in common. So they're doing certain things, not necessarily the same way, but they're addressing the same kinds of issues, and there's a commonality between them. Conversely, when I go into when I or my team go into buildings and they are having a problem, they're having a lot of accidents, injuries, claims, they also have things in common, and you can map out basically quite clearly the areas where high performers do well and not such high performers don't do very well. And what that boils down to is this model that we've created called chimes, which are the 6 key reasons that somebody might slip. So there's contamination, heel, individual, maintenance, environment, and surface. And if I go into a business and I'm speaking to them and they can clearly explain to me and elaborate on what they're doing in each of these areas, and they can document and prove the steps they've taken, and they've got some third-party scientific quantifiable evidence to support the steps that they're taking, then I can be pretty sure that they're going to be doing well without me needing to go into too much more details. I can be pretty confident that they're going to be performing well. They're going to be having fewer than average accidents compared to their peers. They're going to be in a position to defend claims and have positive discussions with their insurance companies about reducing premiums and all sorts of things like that. However, if I go into somewhere and I show them this model, this chimes model, and they say, "Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought of it like that. We're probably only looking at 1 or 2 of these." That is raising a red flag to say, well, look, they're likely to be having problems. So the secret to getting this right is to understand how you're doing on these 6 areas, and then to take steps to do as well as you can in these 6 areas. And those examples I shared with you, where performance has improved significantly, is because they've focused on these 6 things. And if you look at the average performance of all buildings across chimes, this is on the screen is what is shown, and you can see that the performance for heel, which is footwear, is pretty good on average. Maintenance, which includes cleaning, is typically perceived as pretty good. Environment and contamination are not bad. And then the areas where most people have most room for growth, most room for improvement to drive down risk and increase safety levels and compliance levels, is in individual and surface. So wouldn't it be great if you could answer the question, how am I doing on chimes? And the good news is we can answer that question using this Slip Prevention Scorecard tool. And the idea of this basically is to score your ability to stop slips in your building. How does it work? So it's a free digital tool. It's a self-assessment, a diagnostic tool. It's all done online. You can do it on, a tablet, a laptop, a mobile phone, whatever it might be. It takes under 4 minutes to complete, although when I run through it with you now on this broadcast, it's going to take a bit longer because we're going to be chatting a bit around the questions and stuff. But if you literally just sit down and do it in one go, the average is about 3.5 minutes to complete. It's very quick, it's very easy, it's intuitive, it's on a responsive site and so on and so forth. So it's very easy to use. And what it's going to do is it's going to score your building versus best practice. So you will get a percentage score for each of the chimes, and that will show you how well you're doing compared to best practice. And you also get an overall score too. There are a couple of questions which are not specific to chimes, but that will help us to give some further context to how you're performing overall. You get instant results. As soon as you finish the last question, you go to a results page and you see all of your percentages. And then you get a PDF report sent to you as well. And what that means is you then have your roadmap on where you need to put more time, effort, and focus. Because if you're performing well in 3 areas, let's say, and not so well in another 3, then you should put your time and effort into improving your performance in those 3 where you've got most room to improve. And once you've taken the scorecard, you'll get your PDF report, but then we will follow up with you with a conversation, and we'll start sending you through based on your responses, based on how you've scored and how you've told us that you're doing, and where your blind spots, where your areas of improvement are, some bespoke hints and tips. So you're getting a benchmark, a baseline for where you are now, and you're also getting a roadmap for how you can try to improve. And the URL for this is scorecard.slipsafety.co.uk. So that's the bit of background on the tool, on the scorecard. And now we're going to do a bit of a demo. So what I would love would be if somebody on the Zoom was keen to volunteer, and we could answer the questions together. Is anybody up for volunteering? Any brave souls? Who can I pick on? Who can I pick on to do this? Oh, I don't know. I'd like someone to volunteer. There's nobody in here that I know well enough to pick on, I feel. If nobody wants to volunteer, that's fine. But what I'd suggest is everybody that is watching along, go to the URL, whether you're watching along on Zoom or on LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever it is, or if you're listening to this on the podcast or watching it on YouTube afterwards, head to scorecard.slipsafety.co.uk. You'll see this landing page, which we can see on the screen, and we can dive into it. So it's a very simple page. It just says what it does. There's no guff. And basically, you just click on this Discover Your Slip Prevention Score Now button. You have to fill in a quick form. So I'm just going to fill this in as a test so that I know that it's a test, because otherwise it will skew the results. So put your name, first name, surname, email address, your company in, your mobile number, and the name of the site that you're assessing, because the tool is designed to assess a building. It's not designed to assess a company. So if you manage multiple sites, then you'd want to get somebody from each site to fill this in, because it's going to be asking very specific questions about a particular building, and so you need to be filling it in on a site level. No worries, Youssef. Have a good meeting. I'll just call this.
I'm happy to volunteer if needed.
Olga, perfect. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll just call it Olga test, and then afterwards,
Excellent.
if we fill it in, then afterwards in the back end, I will put your. I'll change it to your email in the back end. I don't want to share your email address on the screen or your mobile number.
Thank you.
So thanks very much. Just quickly, Olga, give us a quick overview of the business that you work for, because we can fill that in, and what sector you're in.
Yeah, I'm working for one of the London's universities.
Okay. Perfect. So let's think then about a building, because again, we can't do this
Yes.
for the university.
Yeah.
So what sort of building? What building do you think we would do
We'll
this in?
go with a tower building.
Tower?
Yes, so it will be high rise.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Right, so if everybody's watching along, fill this little form in and click on Start, and then we'll go to the first question. Now, what you'll find is that the questions, if you're doing this live with Olga and I, you're going to find that you're going to be asked different questions at different times, because it's designed in such a way that the questions come out in a random order. So it might be worth just working through it slowly, or you could wait until we've done it and then whiz through it at the end. So here we go then, Olga. So do any of your floors get routinely wet or contaminated?
Ground floor, yes, especially when the weather is wet.
Okay, yeah. So yes. So that could include water, it could include grease, it could include, if you're in manufacturing, it could include semi-solids, it could include shavings of cheese, it could include tomato ketchup, it could include dust. So anything that kind of contaminates the floor. So in other words, anything that goes on top of the floor that isn't sort of designed as being part of the floor. If you have higher slip risk areas, are staff provided with slip resistant footwear, and do they always wear them? Yes, no, or NA?
Not applicable.
Not applicable, fine. And the reason we have a not applicable is because obviously in certain sectors, such as this one,
Yes.
you wouldn't really be giving people footwear. When did you last have a pendulum slip test of your floors? And if anybody doesn't know what that is, there's a little video that you can click on here and it shows you what it is. Within the last 12 months, more than 12 months ago, or never?
Not aware.
Not sure.
Yes,
Never?
not sure.
Never, okay. Other than during pre-planned cleaning and immediately after a spillage, do you use any yellow wet floor signs? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. And if you're following along here, you can see at the bottom, it's showing us that we've completed 14%. Do people rush around in your building? In other words, not walking at a normal pace? Probably not. Probably not, I guess.
Well, they're students, so yes.
Okay, so they're students, so maybe they do, yeah. I guess if they were in a block of flats, then probably they wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Do people carry, push, or pull items in your building? So are people, just walking along normally, or are they pulling suitcases?
We do have deliveries.
Yeah. Are there any ramps or slopes in the building?
Yes. They will be leading outside to the courtyard.
Okay. So we're 25% complete now. Is all contamination fully removed from all floors with your regular cleaning process?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Do you have any shiny floors in areas that are likely to become wet or contaminated, for example, entrances or washrooms?
Probably no.
No, okay. Could contamination on your floor, for example, a spillage, be hard to spot? So I'll give you a story here before you answer this question. An industry friend was visiting a factory once where they were complaining they were having slip issues, and he turned up to do a walk around and try to diagnose what the problems were. And he walked in, and within 5 seconds he knew what the problem was, because they were having spillages, so they were having slips because there was contamination on the floor, and their floors were red, and they manufactured tomato ketchup. So it was hard to see the contamination on the floor.
Yeah, no, I don't think that it's hard to spot.
Wouldn't be hard. Perfect. Do you use a single cleaning method for all of your floor types and areas?
Oh, good question. I don't know.
Don't know. Let's say no then. Have your staff received slip and trip training for your workplace in the last 12 months?
No.
No. Okay. We're now 43%. Are all floors cleaned at least daily, weekly, monthly, or less often?
Daily.
Daily. Okay. Approximately how many slip and fall accidents or near misses have occurred in your building in the last 12 months? None, up to 5, or more than 5?
More than 5.
Okay. Could a person walking in your building be distracted, for example, through loud noises, screens, mobile phones, things like that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. When are your floors cleaned? Are they cleaned during opening hours?
Out of hours.
Or out of hours, okay. Is sensible, quote unquote, footwear always worn in your building?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say.
Here's an example of where we need to consider this about being around a building rather than a group of buildings, because the answer to this question would vary potentially. Is there at least 2 meters of fixed entrance matting at every entrance?
No.
No. Okay. Approximately how many slip and fall insurance claims has your building suffered in the last 3 years? None, up to 5, more than 5, or more than 10?
And slip and fall. I would say none.
Okay.
None really goes under this.
Are your floors mostly used by staff only or staff and members of the public?
Members and members of the public, yes.
Okay, 71% complete. Would you say that your floors all look like brand new?
No.
No. Okay. Do you have any floors with barefoot users, for example, wet rooms, hotel bathrooms, shower rooms?
Yes.
Yes. Are there steps and stairs in the building in areas that are likely to get wet or contaminated?
No.
No. Okay.
Not in this building.
Do you have any floors that appear worn, old, or damaged?
Difficult question, because I just thought that they not look like brand new, but I also don't want to say they all look damaged. They just look that they've been used.
Okay, so we'll just say no then.
No.
Does the building have various floor types rather than one predominant type?
No, it's one type.
It's one type. Okay. So somewhere like a supermarket, for example, would or a shopping centre would often just have, one single floor all the way through. Whereas if you went to a hotel, you're always going to have different types of floors as you go.
Let's come back to this question then. So let's clarify. Various floor types. So I do have various floor, but the floor types as a surface types are similar.
Yeah.
Is it what you're asking for the surface type rather than floor types? Because we have different floors, some are for teaching, some are for workshops.
No, so like what I mean by that is, and perhaps we'll clarify this question when we update the scorecard, is, are they all tiled or are they all vinyl?
Yeah, so they are all the same, yes.
They're all the same, yeah. How important is reducing the risk of slip and fall, accidents, injuries, and insurance claims to your organisation? Not a priority, somewhat important, or business critical?
It's somehow important because we do not have claims, but we do have accidents.
Important then, yeah?
Put important.
I thought, is that what you said, or did you say somewhat important?
I was thinking about somehow important because the question is about claims, and I thought that we do not have claims.
Yeah.
So if it's just accidents, then I would say important, and because it asks for claims, it's somehow
sure
somewhat important.
93%. Are most of your floors smooth rather than rough?
Yes.
Yeah. Have all areas of your building got good lighting? For example, no sort of dark areas?
Yes.
There we go. So it's as simple as that. And so straight away, as you can see, we've gone to this results page. So if anybody's following along and doing this, you may be ahead of us because obviously you could read the questions and answer them. And you didn't have me telling little stories and things. So here we go. So overall, for based on the results that Olga's given, we got a score of 60%. So that's pretty good, I would say. We're definitely not down here at the low end. And then what you're going to get is a recap on why slips happen and what Chimes does. And then here you're going to see your scores for the Chimes. So based on the results that you gave, Olga, contamination is 81%. So that would be a low risk, good score. Maintenance is 82%, low score. Environment 63%, pretty good score. And then the areas that to look at for improvement for you would be potentially something around footwear, potentially, human factors, and then surface. So all of those questions were driving these particular scores. And so the question then is, okay, we've now done the scorecard, we've got our scores, then we need to start thinking about this Chimes model and our scores, and then what is more or less controllable. So whilst you, for example, didn't score that well for heel, in reality, based on what you've told me about your building, heel isn't something that actually you can impart that much control on. So therefore I would be thinking less about heel in your case, and I'd be thinking, okay, what can we do to work on some of these human factors and some of the things around the floor to try to get those up to being in a slightly better place.
There was a question about training and sleep safety.
Yeah.
Will it then improve heel score if such training?
The training would improve the individual score, because individual is all around human factors. So that would include both who are the users of the building, but also and are there things we can do to mitigate the risks of the users of the building suffering a slip, which would include your staff as well, but it includes the students. But also human factors includes, our staff trained is a key, is obviously important in that, do they know exactly what they should be doing? Have we got all the policies and procedures and things like that in place? So things like training would work on improving that individual score.
Thanks. Another question, one of your questions there was about, is the surface rough or not?
Yeah.
And it would be useful to have some examples, because, for example, not in that building, but we do have some of the fire escape stairs, which are metal, so they will be rough surfaced. But should it be then included as yes, so some of our surfaces are rougher?
So I think the specific question, if I recall, is, are most of your surfaces?
Okay.
Yeah. And obviously, typically speaking, although it isn't an exact science, because you can't tell just by looking at a surface if it's anti-slip or not. If a surface is smooth, then it's more likely to be more slippery than if it's rough, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So was there anything on here that you were surprised by, or and would you have thought that your 60%, is that kind of where you thought you'd be, or did you think you'd be a bit better or a bit worse, or
it's generally an interesting tool, so it would be nice to have a look at all of the buildings.
Yeah.
And I'm from this score, I'm a bit surprised with the heel score being so low, because I can understand that it's just because we cannot mandate that everyone is wearing anti-slip shoes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think you have to, heel is the one that you do have to ask yourself the question, is this actually controllable or not? So in this case, many buildings, heel is something that's more controllable. If you think of, even for you, if you think of your staff in restaurants, for example, in kitchens and places like that, then obviously if you got that score in a building where heel was something more controllable for you, then you'd be putting some more focus on that. Whereas for this particular building, other than maybe cleaning staff, because obviously when they're cleaning they are likely to be wetting the floor and therefore making a bit more risk, I would say that you would kind of discount the heel and you'd be focusing on some of the other things.
Okay, thank you, it was useful.
Yeah, no, thanks. And the way that we approach this is, so we work with big groups, and they basically get people to do this for all of their sites, because again, you've got limited resources, right? So if you can do this for different buildings across a group, then obviously you can start to just get that snapshot view benchmark of which buildings are most likely to be a potential risk, and then you can spend more time on the ones that score lower than the ones that score higher. So that's kind of the concept here, and that's why it's a free tool and simple to use. So what I'll do, I'll go in the background. I will after we finish this session, I'll update the email address on this, and then you'll get the report through and all that sort of good stuff. And we can go from there. And then sort of what to do next is give us a call and have a chat through the report, which we've kind of done a bit. We can do that in a bit more detail if you like. And then we're going to send you some emails with specific thoughts based on how you've answered the questions, basically. Thank you for being the guinea pig.
Thanks.
There's some good chat going on LinkedIn, so thanks everybody for joining in there. Does anybody else want to hop on and have a chat about their scores? Has anybody done it? Do you want to unmute and have a chat, or drop your scores into the chat box if you like, along with a bit of a overview of what the building is and what sector it is, and then I can give you some thoughts. Adam's asked a question on LinkedIn saying it looks like a great tool as an initial assessment. Is there something that can go deeper and look at specific departments? Yeah, so that's the next step, Adam, is absolutely that. So what we do with everybody that takes this is we follow them up with a phone call, and we basically say, thanks for taking the scorecard. You scored well. So let's use Olga's example. You scored well on contamination maintenance, but you've got some areas to improve. Would you like to arrange a session to dive a bit deeper to see what can be done to improve your score? And most people would say yes. And then typically you're going to end up on a phone call either with myself or one of the team for 15 minutes, half an hour. And actually we can start to do a deep dive into some of these areas and start to give you some tools and tips and advice to work on reducing the risk. Yeah, thanks, Olga. See you next time. So if anybody wants to send through their scores, let me know. Where are we? Or if you've got any thoughts on this, any feedback, then always keen to hear about that too. But failing that, hopefully this has given you a good overview of the scorecard. You can see that it's very simple to use. It's very quick and easy to use. It doesn't take very long at all. Olga and I took a bit longer on that than it would take you to have done it yourself. And you can see that you're instantly getting some insights and a view of where you stand. And then the next step, basically, as Adam asked about on LinkedIn, is to do a deep dive based on this baseline of your current level of performance to see where you've got the most room for improvement. So go away, head over to scorecard.slipsafety.co.uk, give it a go. We'll then follow up with you and chat it through, and we can help you to start that journey of reducing slip risk in your building. Thanks very much, everybody, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks for joining us on the Safety and Risk Success podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit follow and do share on social media. Does anyone you know spring to mind as a great guest, even yourself? If so, please contact us on podcast@slipsafety.co.uk. See you next week for another episode.